Good afternoon everyone, Behzad is here from Code Simplifier Coding School. Welcome back to another video of our SQL series. Last week we had an introduction to inner joins. I watched my videos a few times and I found it a little bit complicated for a beginner level. So I decided to go through it one more time and give you a clear example to make sure it sinks in your memory. With that being said, let's dive into it. Here is where we left last week. Let's say I decided to enroll in Cool School to do a short course. Cool School at this stage offers 3 units for this short course. When I enroll into the school system, I'll get a student ID. Cool School has a system which keeps a record of students in each unit using their student ID, their result, and their grades. In our example, it refers to a student in subject table, which is here. The system uses a student ID to track the records. Let's say we want to check our records. When we enter our student ID, we will get results and grades only. Do you know why? Because we don't know these records belong to what subject. Here is where we need to declare the subject names as well. In our example, it will be the student in subject. Now we will get the subject name as well as result and grades. Here is the second student, Rohan, again does enroll in a school. Rohan, a student enrolled in a subject name. We have a result and their grades. And a third student, Keita, does the same thing, and we have a record of their information in our system as well. Here is our example. Now we want to go back to our code to see what we've done. Do not worry about the first line for now. We'll come back to it later on. Here what we want. We want our subject name and the description of the subject from our subject table. As well as we want our student result and a student grade inside our student in subject table. And this line, this is how we are reading it. We want from student and student in subject table. We want a student ID in both tables must be identical. We go into the second part, same thing. We want from our subject table and a student in subject. We want the subject names from these two tables, they must be identical. I'll go through it one more time, so just make sure we are clear. We want subject name and description from our subject table. We want our student result and a grade from our student in subject table. And the codes, this is how we want to read it. We want to start from our student table and, so inner join means and, student subject table. We want to look for a student ID because a student ID, it is common between a student in subject and a student table. And this is the condition. We want to make sure the student ID in both tables are identical. The second part does exactly the same thing. We want to check our subject table and a student in subject table where they have common things. And the common thing between these two tables are subject names. And those two, they must be identical. Last part, we call it as a condition part, is we want to check student by their first name. And that first name is Behzad, or could be Rohan or Keita in this our example. And once we execute this code, the system or the SQL return the result based on those information we declared here. We want to understand these inner joins more and more. That's why in an upcoming series, I will go through them more and I will try to explain them. And again, by practice doing more of these type of works, you'll understand it more and easily. And that was it for today's video. I hope you learned inner joins by now and it will be less intimidating from now on. As per usual, if you need more explanation, please comment on this video and I'll try to give you more example if you need to. With that being said, thank you for your time and I will see you all next week.